What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA. We're here to talk about Conor McGregor potentially becoming the Ultimate Fighter coach. He did put out an Instagram post today, didn't he? Explaining about a snapshot that he'd seen and reposted on his social media about his time when he was the coach against Uriah Faber, of course, and in that was the build-up to the fight against Chad Mendes. And then at the bottom he said, I've been, re-asked to do this once again, and 7 years down the line, it's an interesting opportunity. It's a good opportunity for Conor McGregor. Of course, the past sort of 4 or 5 years hasn't been good for the notorious one. Of course, he had that time with Khabib where he lost. He came back against Cowboy, of course, and had a fantastic 40 seconds. But now he's come off the back of 2 losses to Dustin Poirier. Now, the first one did get a bit of revisionism. Fantastic game plan from Dustin Poirier, but he did look okay in that first round. Of course, the second fight, he looked okay for the first minute and a half, 2 minutes. And of course, he got taken down. And then, obviously, we had the leg break towards the end of round 1. But he's in a bit of a sticky patch because he's not in the title conversation right now. He's sort of floating in between what weight class he wants to perform at, whether it's 155 or 170 or 185, they even mentioned. But I believe he's somewhere at 170. He should be at 155, but I don't know if he has got the discipline for that. And currently, with not being in the side pool and etc., he's been looking rather bulky in the last couple of 12 months, or certainly the last 4 or 5 months. So where is he at weight-wise? Again, he's not going to be in the title picture at 170 because he hasn't got a win at 170, or at least not in the top 10 against 170. He isn't going to get in there against Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, etc., because that's just not stylistically a good matchup for him. Similarly, at 155, he's not going to go up against Islam Makhachev, he's not going to go up against Charles Oliveira, Gaethje, potentially Poirier, because albeit we have seen enough to conclude the rivalry, we haven't seen, with the leg break, there's still a slither in an open door to revisit that one down the line. So where is Conor at right now? The one thing you can never say about Conor and disregard is his ability to study the game, his ability to delve deep into the game of mixed martial arts, the sport. He's a real nerd for the sport. And if you've read John Kavanagh's book on this, the amount of times he'll text or message or, present Kavanagh with ideas and this and that, he would study the sport inside out, and which is probably why, he had such a meteoric rise, because he would sit down and spend hours and hours obsessing over the sport, whereas nowadays, he probably sees it more as a fan, or if not a stakeholder perhaps, looking after a business. He hasn't got that hunger as a fighter, as a for want of a better phrase, and to use an analogy, he hasn't got that sort of low-level employee status burn to, climb up the rankings. He's up the top now. He's making more than all the fighters, and he's, being very successful in his ventures outside the cage. So not warrant him needing to come back and put blood, sweat, and tears into a training camp. So going into that coaching role and being a coach on The Ultimate Fighter is an interesting idea. And the fact that the most recent sort of seasons of The Ultimate Fighter haven't been the most adventurous. I actually enjoyed the Ortega-Volkanovski one. There was a good back and forth between those two. But I didn't watch the Pena Nunes season to properly give an opinion on how that season went down. But it is the 30th year for the UFC. They either want to do big numbers this year, big pay-per-views, have those sort of viral moments going this year and make it the best year yet. And with the return of Conor McGregor, The Ultimate Fighter does make sense to him. Now, of course, there was talk about Khabib and Tony, but obviously, since then, Khabib has even stepped down from coaching and pretty much the sport altogether in all capacities. So he's not going to be doing The Ultimate Fighter. So where and who could be in there opposite Conor McGregor? This is going to be 5 sort of coaches I thought that would do very well with Conor McGregor or standing against Conor McGregor for The Ultimate Fighter. So let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And let's get into the first one. The first one is, of course, Michael Chandler. Now, Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor have had that sort of bit of back and forth since Michael Chandler got into the UFC, really. If you remember his debut against Dan Hooker, fantastic win, fantastic post-fight interview as well, where he called out Khabib, wanted to become 29 Chandler. I believe he called out Gaethje there, Poirier and McGregor, because obviously those two were fighting in the main event. And, of course, he's become Mr. MSG, hasn't he? Albeit he's lost to both Poirier and Gaethje at MSG. He's put in 2 fantastic performances. And there'd be no better place to revisit McGregor's return then at MSG. Now I think it's a little bit later down the line and too late for the Ultimate Fighter. It's usually around that September August card, isn't it? The Ultimate Fighter. But the 30th anniversary year at MSG, they put the man who pretty much opened the gates at MSG and was the closer in the very first event at MSG, obviously at UFC 205, where he became champ against the man who's made it a bit of a cult sort of heroic gladiatorial feeling when he steps in there in Michael Chandler. He'd do it again against Conor McGregor. That fight is actually stylistically a very interesting fight to see. We know the power and wrestling capabilities that Michael Chandler has, but we've seen Michael Chandler get robbed. Obviously by Charles Oliveira, obviously last year, or the year before, 2021, of course. And Michael Chandler deserves it for what he's done in the UFC. He's been one of the most exciting talents the UFC have brought together in the past few years. He's not, really turned a foot wrong in terms of his presence in the UFC. Of course, he's had a couple of losses, but each loss has been exciting to watch. He's been, present in each loss, and each win that he's had has come with an explosive, post-fight interview. And he's been phenomenal when he's been on the mic, and he's been a phenomenal athlete. And it just makes you wish, those that watch the UFC, or predominantly more UFC over other organizations like Bellator, it makes you regret not tuning in to see Michael Chandler. It makes you regret Bellator, etc., and Michael Chandler probably himself, not pushing himself more in that nature and making you watch him like an MVP would, like a Patricia Pitbull would. It's an interesting stance to be at. But Michael Chandler has sort of earned the right to fight with Conor McGregor, get the payday Conor McGregor brings, and it would be interesting to see him on the Ultimate Fighter together. Both of them are good coaches. You see Michael Chandler's workout videos all the time on Instagram. He's dedicated to the sport, and with them both, with the Ultimate Fighter being lightweights this year, supposedly, it makes no more, more perfect sense than to have two lightweights standing there side by side and creating, some memorable moments, and then topping it off with a fight at MSG perhaps later this year. So yes, Michael Chandler is the first one to go in there. Now the second one, of course, is Rafael dos Anjos. Now again, similar to Michael Chandler, Rafael dos Anjos and Conor McGregor have been going at it, although to be fair, everyone's been going at Conor McGregor the past 12 months, really. But RDA has a valid claim to the fight with Conor McGregor. He's a veteran in the sport. He's been on a fantastic run, and he's also, was supposed to fight Conor McGregor. Let's not forget, he's supposed to be in there with Conor McGregor. So it makes sense to revisit that chapter, to revisit that story and that narrative, and to add that little spice, because of course there isn't a championship on the line anymore, and to make it, that Irish-Brazil rivalry, of course, between Aldo and McGregor, a big rivalry built up now. I don't know where that is currently with the Island Brazil thing and what Brazil's sort of status is on McGregor at the moment. But, it's certainly one to relook at, and it would be interesting to see them. They could do it at 155 or 170 to fight. It wouldn't really matter. Both of those are able to compete at either weight. And RDA, again, he's put the money on it, and he deserves this fight. He deserves that opportunity. And I believe they would put on a good show together. I think it would be quite entertaining. Maybe not as entertaining as the Michael Chandler one. I think Michael Chandler has that little bit of more sort of energy about him. He's more brash, whereas RDA seems to be a bit more composed, a bit more relaxed. The most of the time, so I don't know how that would come across on camera over a season of The Ultimate Fighter, but I'd revisit that rivalry in a heartbeat. Absolutely no problem at all. Now the third one is an outlandish one. I've gone with Paddy Pimblett. Now, I don't know if this statement is correct, but I think Paddy Pimblett might be the only man in the UFC right now that would put Conor McGregor over and make him a face. Now, I know that's a very WWE term, but it'd be interesting to see the dynamics from the fans' point of view when and if Conor McGregor and Paddy Pimblett were sat next to each other, either on The Ultimate Fighter or at a press conference. Who would be, choosing sides of who? Is it one of those ones where you stand back and go, I'm not picking either of those. I don't want either to win. But either way, the UFC does numbers putting Paddy and Conor in the same space together, and certainly in the octagon together. Now it is a fight you'd put Conor McGregor as a heavy favourite in there, but again, where is he at right now? Again, he should have the skills and capability to beat Paddy. He's got better striking than Paddy, but if he doesn't turn up on the night, Paddy has got jiu-jitsu that could turn him over. But to go back to The Ultimate Fighter, these two make viral clips. Probably Paddy Pimblett's probably outside Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, maybe Adesanya. He's one of the biggest driving forces in the UFC, at least social. If you're looking at social media numbers, and the UFC won't shy away from that when it comes to creating a show like the Ultimate Fighter. They want numbers, they want sign-ups to the UFC Fight Pass, and what better way to get it than putting two of the best talkers in the sport together. Especially now, Paddy Pimblett is having surgery on his ankle in March. He's unable to compete. So what better way to use him and utilize it than putting him in the Ultimate Fighter and having a fantastic season. You got the Scouse versus Irish. You got two fantastic dedicated audiences right there ready to tune in. And again, the insults maybe they might not translate over to America, but or the rest of the globe in that matter of fact. But you can have some incredible back and forth between Paddy and Conor. There'll be a lot of respect because Paddy respects Conor, but there'll also be that sort of little bit of heat in there, knowing that maybe it is a part of the government. Maybe specifically in marketability, I don't think Paddy hits the realms that Conor ever did. Becoming one or two divisional champion. I don't see that in Paddy's future, but I do see Paddy being one of those sort of, I don't want to say cult heroes because I think he's got a dedicated audience, but he is a very sort of controversial character at times, and that can turn people away from him. But he's certainly got that sort of Donald Cerrone about him, that Yoel Romero way. He's going to turn up. He might not win every fight, but he's going to make every fight fun, and he's going to make you want to tune in whether you want to see him win or lose. But I think Paddy versus Conor and Paddy and Conor on the Ultimate Fighter would be an interesting one. It would be a fantastic one. And if you want to do it for purely commercial reasons, it would be the best way to go, in my opinion. But if you didn't want to go down that route, Jorge Masvidal, BMF, put it on the line. BMF on the line. Of course, Jorge Masvidal right now. Both of these, in fact, are 1-3 in the last 4, of course. Let's not forget that. Jorge Masvidal coming off a free fight. Losing skid against Colby Covington. Of course, Kamaru Usman twice. I think those are the 3, aren't there? I can't remember him being in the octagon any time prior to that, with an L next to his name. But again, similar to Paddy Pimblett, commercially this one makes sense, and it also makes sense with where they are both at their careers right now. They're both towards the tail end of their careers, in my opinion. Especially Jorge Masvidal, he's put a lot of miles on the clock. And he's certainly not going up the rankings anytime soon, I don't believe. I don't think he beats Gilbert Burns or Wonderboy. Wonderboy would be interesting, but I think Wonderboy, he's already got a win over Jorge Masvidal. And then you got the Jeff Neal, the Shavkat Rakhmanovs. I think Jorge Masvidal's time at the top of the UFC is coming towards a closure. And he's been inactive, so he's not certainly putting in the activity to warrant him, looking at the rankings. Similarly to Conor's not been active. Now, of course, a lot of that has been due to injury, but prior to that, it was just due to inactivity. The pandemic did play a part in 2020. He wanted to be a lot active, so I get and understood his frustrations at the time. But the BMF title on the line, we know those two are not afraid to back down. We know both of those, again, bring dedicated audiences, which is the main thing for the Ultimate Fighter. They want to bring an audience, which is why they call it Conor McGregor. They want to make those moments and want to make those clips and want to make it as commercial as possible. And, at the end of it, have an amazing product and also have an amazing sort of story to build that fight with. And Jorge Masvidal and Conor McGregor, again, it sells itself. Put it in MSG, put it in Vegas, put it wherever you want. Put it in Miami if you wish. It will do numbers that sell out crazy. And, again, they have the story. The BMF title, if you want to put it on the line, put it on the line. And it becomes a fantastic series. It becomes a series and certainly a narrative that you wouldn't want to miss out on. But of course, number one, there can only be one option. Now, he may be linked, with Jake Paul and the PFL. He may not even be in the UFC right now. But come on, the UFC. Throw that one fight deal towards Nate Diaz and let's build the trilogy. Obviously, Nate Diaz walked away from the organization in September against Tony Ferguson with that fantastic win. But what better way to conclude a rivalry in the trilogy with a few weeks of those two going at it together on the Ultimate Fighter, not backing down, getting that heat, getting those jibes in there. They keep going at each other at social media. Reference to maybe going on Slap League, etc. Which we don't want to be doing that. We don't want to go anywhere near Slap League. But the next best thing is the Ultimate Fighter and getting that trilogy complete. It needs to be completed, and it should be completed. But of course, we've got to see where Nate Diaz is and with the UFC is, and if that would be able to be possible. But I'm sure if the Conor fight's on the line, they would warrant him a 1-fight deal, if not a 2-fight deal max. But for me, it makes sense to build that fight, to create that fight and create that narrative. And again, similar to the Hawaii Mazars and the Paddy Pimblets, the commerciality of it and the marketability is off the charts, especially with Nate Diaz, because they've already got previous. It's 1-1, and it's a fight that would be interesting to see. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I don't think Conor's going on any crazy title charges. I think we're looking at fights that are commercially popular and successful, and putting them out once a year, maybe 2 times a year, to just be that sort of showpiece, I suppose. And he doesn't have to have a belt on him or on the line for him to headline a pay-per-view. And of course, 300's coming along the line. I'm sure they want to put McGregor on that next year. So maybe, let's put Nate Diaz in there. Let's have some fun. That's what the Ultimate Fighter is. Of course, the top priority should be the coaching of those that are coming through, the prospects that are coming through the Ultimate Fighter and on the competition. But secondary to that is a reality TV show, and the entertainment and the narratives of that TV show are important also. And there would be no better competitors than Nate and of course Conor side by side one last time. So yes, that is the top 5 TUF coaches I believe would suit and work well with Conor McGregor. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. There's a few other candidates that you could have put in there. Tony Ferguson perhaps springs to mind, of course. But do make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to drop this video a like. Let us know who you'd pair Conor with on the Ultimate Fighter this year, should he go on there. And I will see you guys on the next video.